Hello, lovely patrons, and welcome to one of our very rare podcast rewards for those of you in the $5 and up tiers. First off, thanks for subscribing, as always, and thanks for joining us for this. We've done one of these episodes in the past where we've talked about other RPGs that we've played, and the intention was to do a lot more, and it seems like time continues to get away from me despite my best efforts. But we're here, we're back. Perhaps this will be, if people enjoy it, this will be the start of the pattern rather than just another single example. But this has been a lot of rambling to kill time before I say we are here talking about the game, the RPG Draw Steel by MCDM, and I'm joined by two of my players. You know both of them, you love both of them, Red and Noir.
Hello.
Hi.
This is gonna be fun. I'm glad to do two of these. I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah, you
I've
have
been on
done
both.
too. I wanted to ask.
Why didn't you call on me for the Marvel one? What's up with that?
It's funny. I think that my intention was just to start interviewing people on one game at a time, and that I'm trying to remember the exact order of events. If I remember correctly, it was that I was like, okay, I'll talk to Noir about the Avatar one, and then of course I think then later we did Cloud Empress. Cloud Empress was after.
I think so. Yeah,
Avatar,
I pushed that off as far as I could because I
do...
was so scared.
Well, you did a great job. We'll do that one, and then we should do Girl by Moonlight. That happened not that long ago. Oh, I remember. I wanted to do a Call of Cthulhu with Sophia as well, and there's of course Hunt from Wally. So we have this whole backlog of ones we've actually done. But I'm very excited by Draw Steel, so I couldn't really resist having this one be about it. So to give a little bit of context, if you don't know, Draw Steel is a new, not yet officially released RPG from MCDM that the people who made many products, including Kingdoms of Warfare, Strongholds and Followers, Flee Mortals, and Where Evil Lives, which I use both of those books pretty heavily in the podcast for monsters and for dungeon ideas. So this is their flagship RPG. This is going to be their big RPG that, if all goes well, will support them, and they will provide support for new, player options, new adventures, things like that for years to come. And it is squarely positioned as a competitor to D&D. It is definitively a heroic, and they use these 4 words to describe it very often. It is a fantasy, heroic, tactical, cinematic game.
That's 5 words.
So it is about fantasy, heroic, tactical, cinematic.
Game doesn't count. Okay.
It is those 4 things, and so the fantasy heroism is definitely the D&D, and some of those the tactics and the cinematic definitely come through in D&D a little bit, but they're really guiding principles here. So the whole D&D, you can play it on the grid or you can play it without the grid. This is a game that's definitively played on the grid. A lot of the language is very grid-based. It'll say a certain number of squares instead of 15 feet. This is, to some people, it's not to their taste because they like pretending this is, the physics of a world and not the rules to a game. Fair enough. But they want to be very clear in the tactics. It's on a grid. It's important to the gameplay. In cinematic, it is what a lot of people would consider like almost high-level D&D almost from the start. A first-level character is capable of doing heroic feats. You are not freshly an adventurer from being a farmer. You are already an established hero of some kind. You might even have some renown. That's a mechanic in the game. And you are expected to do heroic things. So that can include, and I say heroic, you don't necessarily have to be good. You can be, evil heroic. There's plenty of, you can be a sort of reluctant hero, Han Solo, if you'd like. You could be an anti-hero, Red Hood kind of situation if you want to be. But you are capable of performing great deeds. That is the sort of heroic pillar. So that is the game, if you don't know it. And I want to get some feedback now from the players and see how they what their first impressions were. We have played not the most recent version, so you can get, I mentioned it's not out yet, you can get access to it if you are a patron on their Patreon, or if you backed on the Kickstarter. And if you are a patron, you have access to basically most of the completed game at this point. It doesn't have layout, it doesn't have art. There are still rules that they're amending, places where they didn't list that this needs to be once per day and they forgot, or magic items that they're like, oh, someone discovered that this actually can lead to an infinite glitch combo if you do this, that, and the other thing. Things like that, but the core game is in place. We did not play that version. We will play that version soon. We played the one earlier iteration that was still largely the same. So we're going to be talking about that iteration. That kind of, I guess 2.0, might be 3.0, I don't remember, but not the final version. But first impressions from playing the game, Noir.
Well, a lot of what we did in the sessions that we played were very combat focused, and I really liked. This is a thing that's come up whenever we talked about Draw Steel in the Patreon hangouts and stuff like that. But you're never stuck doing nothing on a turn. There's always something that you're doing. By its nature, whenever you roll, you have like a low tier, medium tier, high tier success.
There's no
it's never
whiff.
a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought like straight off the bat that was really a nice mechanic to be able to play with, because it does feed into that heroic fantasy of just like you are always succeeding. It's just a matter of how well you succeed. So that's one thing that I really enjoyed about it. And then also I really enjoyed how much interactivity there was between like the classes. They're called classes in this system.
I think so.
I think so.
I believe they're still called classes. So they're called species.
Yep,
I believe. It might
class.
be ancestries, actually.
Ancestry is
there you go.
the race equivalent. Class is still
yeah.
class, yeah. But it's all on the second page
There
of the
you go.
character sheet, which is why it was throwing me for a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, their character sheets are not yet freshly designed. They had to have all of the character rules done. So we've been playing off some kind of janky, a little hard to follow sometimes, character sheets. But I believe they have already improved. There's actually an online character maker that we'd like to test out soon.
Ooh.
I'm actually looking at it right now. And I'm building my character right now. And I'm like, I should have started with level 1 because we are level 2 in as of
By the
As a
skin of
finishing
our
on one of our
damn
seconds.
teeth. We'll get there. We'll explain how it happened.
But yeah, I mentioned interactivity between like class abilities. Although I might really just be talking about my specific class, the tactician, because that the tactician's whole deal is like bossing other people around, letting other people move on and attack on my turn, and like that's my whole shtick.
It's that because some villains in D&D have legendary actions that are like that, where it's like command all your minions to do a thing, and like all of them make an attack now. It's like, but you just have that as a class ability.
Yeah.
And we're the minions.
And so like there was a lot of like there were a lot of instances where like one of us would want to do a thing, and I would butt in's like, hey, hold on, I have an ability that allows me to like if I use my bonus maneuver. Oh my gosh, I'm already forgetting all of them.
Just maneuver, yeah.
Yeah, maneuver.
So
maneuver. Yeah.
we've hinted at a couple mechanic changes. I'll go into them in more detail, but your turn in Draw Steel is still very close to a turn in D&D in terms of like what you have to work with, which means you have movement, you have an action, and instead of a bonus action, you have what's called a maneuver, which is a change not just in name but a little bit to what it functions as. You can make skill checks when you are taking a maneuver, for example. So something that's kind of frustrating in D&D, you have to use an action for most of those. Most of them mostly maneuvers are about positioning. Super important in this game. So there's a lot of maneuvers that shift you a little bit to get you out of harm's way, that shove people around, things like that.
Well, in my the skill that I was talking about I'm looking at my character sheet now. It was a triggered action, so I can use it on other people's turns,
which is the equivalent of a reaction, basically. And
yeah,
I think technically instead of action, it's ability, because all of the things on the first page are abilities, and those are all the things you can use.
There you go, abilities.
Yeah.
Abilities, maneuvers, triggered actions. Yes. But like interactivity, on another person's turn, I can use a triggered action to move like either myself or another target for free, basically shifting it up to 2 squares, which means that like in the middle of another person's move, I can maneuver either myself or my allies to get into a flanking position with the enemy. And then so that allows the other person to get like an edge on attacking, and then afterwards they can move back to their original positions or move elsewhere if they want to, which is just, as you were saying, maneuverability and positioning is very important in this kind of game. And so you really do be feeling like a tactician, just kind of moving the little minis all over the place, and I don't know. That really scratched my brain in all the right places.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about about playing.
I think one of the things that I really liked just from the feel of Draw Steel with the party we had put together is everyone felt very specialized very quickly. And it wasn't just like, we're going to be, I think, unfavorably comparing D&D to this just by nature of the game. Like, you know, that's what the conversation is designed to be. Like, but like, especially in low-level D&D, you frequently feel like not specialized but limited. It's like, I don't have any abilities that would allow me to, like, to pull an example out of nowhere, do like a ranged attack or move fast. So it's like, okay, well, get me close to the thing and I can hit it, but I can't do anything else. Draw Steel, every character feels specialized in that they are really good at something. And so my character was the sneaky rogue guy, and like level 1, they just let you be Nightcrawler. Like all of my abilities are about like teleporting and getting sneak attack damage and just running through a giant crowd of people and doing attacks on everybody that I pass along the way. But he's an absolute glass cannon. I have like a massive like weakness to corruption damage, and it turned out all of the guys we fought in the opening module did corruption damage. So basically, if I got hit twice, I would be out of any given fight. And it's just...
Yeah, and that's part of your... well, we should talk about the corruption damage later, because that's part of something special and cool about this game.
Yeah, that didn't come bundled with being Nightcrawler. I signed up for that myself for extra maneuverability. We'll get to the complications later. But what I ended up doing was basically a lot of chip damage. So kind of similar to the way Kiana worked out in the first campaign, my character could take out the minions, but against anyone with like a significant health bar, it's like, well, I can do 4 damage if I run past him real quick, but then I need to roll really good to do like 8 to 13 damage. I think my heftiest ability, and that's the other thing, all these abilities have costs, and the game very organically ramps up because you essentially accumulate a certain like resource that's skinned something different for every class. So for me, it is insight. You gain 2 points of that at the beginning of your turn, and then your abilities have costs that are like 3 or 5 or something like that, which means you ramp up to being able to do your cool finishing moves. You can't just lead with them at the beginning of a fight, which I think feeds into the cinematic part of the game because, of course, that is the cinematic way that fights like this go. You don't open by, you know, forming the Megazord and hitting the thing with your big sword. You open by trying to punch it with your normal human fist, and then you ramp up to being able to do the Megazord thing. It's criminal that I'm doing this without Sophia in the room to reference. Anyway.
That's exactly right. I do feel like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is part of the cinematic is dynamic battlefield, which we already touched on. A big part of this game is moving and being moved. A lot of abilities let you phase, let you shove. There's actually different words for the ways you can move people. There's pushing, pulling, sliding, and then moving. So they all mean different things.
And shifting.
Because
shifting is also different.
Yeah. Shifting is another thing where you can get out of what it's kind of like disengaging, but everyone can do it because again, movement is super, super critical to this game. So that's part of the cinematic. But the other thing, Red, like you said, is fights don't get less interesting in D&D. It's an attrition game. Your hit points go down. Your abilities available to you go down. So your spell slots decrease. If you're a fighter, you use action surge, you use second wind, you spend your maneuver dice. Monks use key points. Everything is going down at once. Same for the bad guys. And so you want to hold some things for... There is some strategy because you have lots of encounters. You want to hold things for later. But you are always fighting entropy. In Draw Steel, your hit points, or stamina as they call it, because they ask you to imagine it slightly differently. Don't imagine... Although, to its credit, I don't think D&D says you should imagine it like your meat points. They just don't tell you what you should imagine it as.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a weakness. But I always thought in D&D and in this, and I think stamina is a better word for it. It is how long can you stay in the fight. It's almost a measure of your I almost wish they called it your heroism or something like that. Although I see why that would be loaded. But it's your ability to stay in the fight. And so remember we said that you're always getting hit. Well, you're always hitting. The bad guys are always hitting you. But... they're hitting you in the mechanical sense of dealing damage. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily hitting you. When you take heavy armor, you get a lot more stamina. That's not meat points. That's your ability to stay in the game because you can shrug off more blows for a longer period of time. You can imagine that your stamina is not them cutting at you, but them hitting your shield and, catching you off guard, and now you're in a worse position. You dodge out of a blow that would have seriously wounded you, but you have less stamina now. They still did 3 damage of stamina to your stamina because you're getting tired as you fight. And everyone has basically hit dice, but they are recoveries. They do a set amount, and you can heal during a battle. You can always spend one, take an action to catch your breath and recover a little bit. And then outside of a fight, you don't need to take a short rest or a long rest to recover those. You could just spend your recoveries. You're out of the fight. You've got your breath back. It's not that you have to patch openly bleeding wounds. You can flavor it that way. It's not that you need to, bind your wounds and your broken bones. It's that you lost some of your ability to stay in the fight, but now that it's over, you're recovered, you're good to go again.
And mechanically, I think the way that they do recoveries is really smart because, first of all, it means that a class that has healing abilities is not stuck keeping everybody else in the fight, running around doling out like mass healing words. There are healing classes. One of our players did that. They make you spell.
Also does something else.
Yeah, and also most of them don't just be like, I have a pool of get this many points back. They're usually like, you can spend a recovery, but recoveries are a limited pool. I think probably more than most of the players because I didn't run out in the final session, but nearly everybody else did. And that's the trade-off because my max stamina is 21. And what was your brother's max stamina? It was something insane.
Oh, something. I do have it somewhere, but it was something. It was in the 40s. I think it was more than double yours.
Yeah, he always plays the tankiest character he can manage. So, but it took a while for him to get worn down. But I was getting down to half health pretty much every fight. So I spent. I have 12 recoveries listed, and I was down to 2 by the end of the gauntlet of the starting module. But because the healing is spend a recovery, if you don't have a recovery, that's not going to work on you. So it simultaneously, it's kind of okay, it's sort of. It's less of a resource than expending a whole spell slot to do that because, the caster can just do it every time they have the points to spend it. But it is also you don't have an infinite number of these, and that's another part of the D&D thing that's a little bit less cinematic because it's our fighter's down to 1 hit point, ping, our fighter's back up to full, our fighter's down to 1 hit point, ping, our fighter's back up to full. There's no wearing down effect in the same way that 1 hit point is fine, 0 hit points is unconscious. You can just kind of
this game definitely doesn't have that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
because I'm sorry.
No,
it's. Cut you off there. I got excited.
Yeah.
Because the health mechanic, you're right. All those things are true. And then you said, in D&D, the 1 and 100 hit points, there's no mechanical difference. And I do think that's for the best. Getting worse as you go down in hit points creates a death spiral where you're losing, and now you're worse, so you lose harder. That's bad. But I think Drawsteel does something clever, which is you're fine until you hit 0. And then when you hit 0, remember, you're a hero. You're not dead. You're also not unconscious. You're dying. Whatever happened, you are I'm trying to think of a good example from fiction. You've been hit and there's the ringing noise in your ears, or you are bleeding now, right? You can stop fighting and you'll live. You're a hero. You're not just gonna bleed out on the ground. You can get away, but you can keep taking actions. If you choose to keep taking actions, if you choose to keep fighting, you take more damage. And if you go to negative half of your max, you die.
Which is a really cool trade-off.
You are in control of that dial. Yeah, you can be guys, finish it out. I'm out of this. And you're my character's not going to die, but you can also do the heroic sacrifice or the risk of heroic sacrifice, as Noir loved to do.
Yeah.
I'd be I can do one more attack. I could take 2d6 of damage. It's fine. It's fine.
All I see, the only thing that I see is that I'm not at 0 yet.
You have the same health total I do. It was ridiculous. Every time I got hit, I was guys, that one really stung. I'm out. And you're just I can take it. I'll just army crawl my way over while I'm bleeding out. It was really funny. But
it works for my character.
It does.
I love it.
But also, cinematically speaking, that's great because the thing where oh no, one of the heroes took a really big hit and it looks like they're out of the fight, and then it looks like 5 rounds later the bad guy's gonna get away, and then oh my gosh, somebody just shot them. Who was that? The friend we thought was unconscious. It's a big little kept you waiting kind of thing, and there's no mechanic for that in D&D because when you're unconscious, you're basically out. It's like in tag, you're out, and then in this, it's no, you can keep doing stuff. You're just gonna pay for it later.
I know that some people have homebrewed in D&D to if you hit 0, you can do one final great heroic act or something like that before you drop unconscious. But this is basically a built-in equivalent of that.
I think that this game was very consciously designed to make sure the players never felt like their turn was being skipped. Because all of the moves, they don't have a failure condition. There's just grades of success. And then even when you're, when you're at 0, you can still choose to do things. You can't take a recovery when you're already unconscious. That's like the one thing where it's like somebody else can come over and heal you, or pat you on the back and get you back on your feet. But you can't get yourself back up, it's a good way to enforce that, because otherwise there's no cost to hitting 0. You'll just spend a recovery and be fine. But they did a very good job of kind of, I guess, rules-based enforcement of you're never going to lose a turn, but also the power of friendship will benefit you because somebody can come over and give you a nice little swat on the bum and get you back in the fight. And that's not even like healers only. I think you can just use your action to make someone else spend a recovery.
Yes, you can. It's just not very what makes healers is when they heal people, something else cool happens.
Right.
So, Sophia always talks about never wanting to just be the healer. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Because you only feel like you're stopping the flow of disaster. You never feel like you're helping contribute to the change of the turning of the tide.
Yeah.
Not true for this. When you heal, something else happens. They get to make an attack, or you call down divine lightning, things like that. And then everyone can heal an ally a little bit, and there's nothing else that happens when they do. That's kind of the trade-off. I want to ask, so Noir had a great thing about paying attention on other people's turns, that he had a lot of, he had his triggered action, which is very much like a reaction. You can have more than one around. Some of them are free, i.e. you can do them a bunch of times. Other ones you can do once. But you have a lot of things you can do when it's not your turn. Did you feel similarly, Red, or do you feel like your character was really more on your turns, or how did you think of, how much were you thinking of other players on the battlefield while you were in combat?
I was keeping an eye on it, in part because it was especially in that last fight, it was a little bit like, okay, what do I need to thin out so nobody dies next turn? Because my character had probably the highest mobility and the potential ability 100%. To just run through a crowd and poof at least some of the minions. And, when they're all doing chip damage, it's helpful to be able to cut those numbers down. But the thing that I thought was cool is that my class has the ability, hesitation is weakness, which means I could choose to take my turn directly after an ally's turn, because normally the way it works is, a player will go, DM will move some of the bad guys and have them take their turns. The other player will go, DM will move some of the rest of the bad guys, et cetera, et cetera. So tactically speaking, it was very advantageous to be able to be like, hold on, shut the fuck up, DM. I'm getting in there. I'm going to take my turn and stab like 50 guys.
Especially because there were two shadows. You were the shadow. There were two shadows, so they could chain it together. And yeah, it throws off, in a heroic, cool way, it throws off the balance of the game, the same way that Fireball is very powerful. It can throw off the balance of an encounter with minions, right?
Yeah.
It's good unbalanced, but it's... by the way, I love the initiative system here because it creates the cinema back and forth so smoothly. When I think of cinematic fantasy combat, my brain always goes to Castlevania.
Ah, yeah.
And I think they do some of the best, where there's a constant back and forth between the characters. One of them does something awesome, and then a bad guy does something in response, and then another does something awesome. It flows very well narratively. That same thing happens here. Yeah, it used to be way back. It used to be that it was one hero, one bad guy, and they discovered that depending on what you're fighting, that doesn't work. Like if you have you want to be able to fight small bad guys and a whole bunch of them and kill them, and it doesn't work if it's one of you and then one of these small guys. So they have what's called squads now, which is just a group of monsters. And if you run D&D where you're like, okay, all of the bearded devils are going to go now, both of the bone devils are going to go now on this same initiative, it's basically the same concept, except that sometimes there's mixed up monsters in there. So there will be a hobgoblin captain and his 4 hobgoblin archers in the same band, but you alternate between a hero and a band of monsters, and it creates a great flow. And I never have to worry about a fight being completely unbalanced and done, because all of the heroes outrolled my monster, and it's just going to be it's going to be 2 rounds of combat, and the monster's going to get 1 turn. That never happens. Frankly, I feel like I want to implement that in our D&D games, except that initiative is important to a lot of characters, and it becomes tough where you're like, so I'll just have Kiana roll 1 initiative for the group, and we'll see who goes first. Like, it's kind of a bummer way to do it. The game is not designed with that in mind, so I don't know how you would patch it over.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I thought was interesting. One of them that I just remembered is that because flanking is such an advantage, what I would usually do is I would try to end my turn in such a way that another player would be able to flank. But this doesn't always work because we had one fight where all the bad guys we were fighting exploded when they died. So I just kept getting fireballs in the face because I was like, why did I put myself within 5 feet of him? I didn't need to do that.
That's another thing. The enemies, the way that they are built up, they do interesting things. Like, was it Matt Colville that has the orc system? Was it orc system? Like
yes.
Opening,
the opening, reversal, closure. So I use that whenever a lot of D&D villains, they have legendary actions. Lets them just do more attacks, things like that. Some of them are quite cool, but they don't have a mind towards narrative. They're just more things the monster can do, not on its turn. This imagines you do have legendary actions. They only go off once a round, become villain actions, and they are part of the narrative of the flow of combat. So round 1 is your opener. It typically means showing off something cool the bad guy can do. It's usually something to do with positioning, because positioning is important early in combat. You have reversal, where you change the conditions of the fight in some way, right? Everyone has now settled in round 2. They know what they're doing. Now something has changed. And then you have your closer, which is something big and awesome that the bad guy gets to leave off on, so you remember him, even though you've already basically won the fight.
Yeah.
And ORC.
And I do think that the other thing that's it's good with the initiative system, but I could see it being a little bit troubling if you tried to widely apply it, is that especially like in the first couple times we had combat, we had a real Canadian standoff problem where nobody wanted to be like, I'll go next. That got better as we started having like more of an understanding of our abilities and how they like resonated with each other. Because like that way it could be like, okay, I'm going to take my turn, but then one of the rogues is going to need to jump in to hesitation is weakness and stop this bad thing from happening next. Or like, if you do this, then I can move you here and then we can flank it and both hit. But before that, it was mostly just like, okay, well, who wants to go next? And everyone's just like, well, I don't know. I mean, not me. And that's just a matter of like the table. But I do think that like tonally, the vibe of Draw Steel is very much more on the writer's room side of things than on the like deep RP side of things. And I think that's totally fine. It also might be a consequence of the table that we were playing with. But it feels like a lot of it is a little bit more like top-down tactical. I'll move my little guy over here. And the way the combat plays out ends up being very cinematic. But you, the player, are probably not sitting there voice acting every move that your character's making as they bounce around the battlefield. It's a slightly different vibe. It's one I like a lot more, so it works. But it feels different than a game of, the current way that D&D is kind of flavored, where it's like you're sort of expected to get in the voice and then just kind of RP for like 10 minutes while no mechanics contribute to your experience.
Writer's room is a good way to describe it. Especially like coming from tacticians, the tactician side, where like you have to take into consideration like the other people's abilities, and you have to see how that meshes with your own. And so there is a lot of like out of character speaking, like, well, okay, if you go, then Red can go with her shadow, and then I can use my triggered action to move the 2 of you until yada yada yada. And so I definitely agree that like writer's room is a good way to describe it.
Well, it's one of those things where like in hindsight you're like, damn, if I wrote up the events of that as prose, it would absolutely kill, because it does produce a really cool cinematic fight. But like the last
Mad Libs room maybe.
But like the last combat of the module, the one where we nearly TPK'd, was probably the most like,
that was pretty tough.
It was probably the most writer's room, because like there was like in character, most of us didn't have any way of knowing like if this player goes unconscious, they become a problem for everybody. So we were just like, okay, who's closest? Who can get a healing potion in him?
Talk about closer, your brother's complication.
Oh yes, the complications.
We'll get around to complications.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up on the writer's room thing, but then I wanted to ask some questions about the classes specific for both of you.
Yeah.
But for writer's room, I think that's actually, maybe this will just lead to a different discussion. I think that's absolutely true, and I think it shows up not just in combat, but outside of combat. Now, because there are basically three kind of the same way in D&D they claim there are three kinds of encounter. There's the combat, the roleplay, and the exploration. Exploration has very little support to it. Roleplay also has little support. It's just a thing that you can do. You can talk, and then the DM, prescribes outcomes. And you can have some rigor. There are some abilities that give you bonuses to being able to persuade things, and obviously there's the skill checks, so you can roll persuasion, deception, such. But what I really like about Draw Steel is that you can still have conversations that are just off the cuff RP, but really important conversations that are dramatic and will change the consequences of your adventure. There's mechanics for negotiating. I said that weird. For negotiating. Which gives you a rigor to make it makes a real encounter. There are dice rolls and things like that, in addition to just having to have good ideas. Because now I feel bad talking about this because we didn't really get to do one. One player got to participate in one.
One player,
I cut all the others for time. I cut all the others for time, so I don't really have much to ask the two of you. But basically, there's different scores for this NPC. Their interest and their patience, and as you make checks, their patience goes down, but if you succeed, their interest goes up, and then you can get certain things out of them, and you can set all this up beforehand, so that you don't have to just sit there as the DM and be like, is a 16 persuasion enough? Should I have made it an 18?
Yeah.
But there's also still that freedom of roleplay where if you appeal to things that matter to them, you get bonuses. So you can automatically succeed, or at least have a much higher chance of succeeding, if you appeal to the, if it's a knight and you appeal to their sense of chivalry. And conversely, you can fail without a roll if you're talking to an honorable knight and you try to convince them using greed or revenge as a motivator, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's cinematic too, because it increases the tension that's there, but it's very writer's room, right, where people will discuss, what should we say, instead of just a bunch of people sitting around the table. Everyone says something until the DM goes, we're good here, we're done. Everyone goes, who wants to talk now? Who's gonna? And if you speak the same language, you can get a bonus, right? If you're talking to the orcs and you speak orc, they're like, okay, yeah, okay,
That's fun.
we'll listen. So
I like
then
that a lot.
the third is the skill challenges, the montage test, they call it, which if you listen to our podcast, I've stolen it's from 4th edition, I think. I've stolen that for our game. So the skill challenge, where to complete a goal, you have to come up with ideas and apply them using ability checks. The same for this game. You can all contribute to difficult tasks, escaping a falling, a ransacked city, by using skills, and that gives you some rigor, and not just saying like, okay, do you have any ideas, or you just all run? Okay, you just get to the docks.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, especially because, like, in the combat, you could potentially lose a fight, but you're not going to miss trying to hit an enemy, which is but in a skill challenge, you can fail things in a way that you don't have the randomized chance of failure so much in combat. And that was cool, because the end result of that is that, again, in the rules create the cinematography, you have situations where it's like, okay, I want to try this thing, but I rolled badly. It's like, okay, you try the thing, but like a building collapses and fire explodes and it's cool looking, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. It doesn't feel like I ate shit. It feels like something cool happened, and now we're like, an obstacle.
Never the null result they talk about. No null results. You can most of your abilities work to varying degrees. Sometimes things that are very difficult, they have a failure condition where something bad happens, and then success conditions. But there's never you tried it, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Nothing no drama. There's never the no drama. For both of you, how did you feel about your classes? Because they're very, you could very easily, and I would, by the way, describe someone who had played only D&D, be like, tactician is like a fighter, shadow is like a rogue, right?
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it so people understood. But the fantasies are way more specific, right? They are not broad like fighter and rogue are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you create your character and you can kind of customize. They're narrower ideas. Was that just exciting because, was that exciting? Was it limiting? Where you just kind of, you're like, oh, this is how it is, I'll take that at face value? Or did you feel like you were kind of confined by the specific fantasies of these classes?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I don't know. I think because it was a new game for me, I was like, all right, I'm not going to try and like do anything fancy. I'm just going to be like, all right, I will take what is given to me on the tin. If the tactician is supposed to be someone who sort of manipulates the battlefield, I'm not going to try and deviate my character too much beyond that. And so I wasn't really looking at it from like I want to play a bard mime, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, okay, the tactician is an option. I will play the tactician as it is written on the tin. That being said, they do give you the option of like going at being the tactician in different ways. So, for instance, I'm trying to find it on the tactical doctrine. So the one that I chose was insurgent. In the thing described is, by doing your duty, playing fair, and dying honorably in battle is your opponent's job. By contrast, you'll do whatever it takes to keep your allies alive. Like, that is a very specific way of playing a tactician, but it is different than, say, the Vanguard. You have learned the tactics and stratagems of the heroes of ancient history, letting you lead from the front lines of battle and seek victory through sheer force of will and personality. And so I think that there are. I think it might also because like it's a new game and people haven't had the ability to kind of be creative and try and try and intentionally deviate from the options given to them. But I think that the options are limited, but they're not so limited in the sense that you'll like get bored after one turn. Like right here, there's already like 3 ways that I can play the tactician, and that's not even including the ways that like my ancestry and my culture and my career can like build into it. And so, what was the question again?
It was if you felt constrained or if that didn't really matter. Like, if the specificity helped you with your character or if you felt like a little boxed in.
Well, so I didn't really feel boxed in at all. I was like, okay, tactician sounds cool. And then I saw, like, between the 3 options of Insurgent, Mastermind, and Vanguard, I was like, well, Insurgent sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, I wasn't really looking at it from a thing of, like, I want to play a really crazy idea. Let's see if the rules as written can help me achieve that. So
yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. I think if I'd gone into this with a really like specific character concept in mind and then I was trying to find a way to make that mechanically work, I probably would have had a much more frustrating time because there's not a ton of flexibility in the current format, but I like that because I like when a system will give me like specifics to work off of. It's kind of like if someone asks you, like, do you have any thoughts? You'll probably be like, But if they're like, well, what do you think about this specific thing? It's like, oh, I have thoughts on that. Like, sometimes getting prompted with something specific can make you feel more internally creative. So, because again, I was a shadow, but we also had another shadow in the party, and she picked a different, like, subclass thing, specialization.
Yeah. I can't remember if they're called but yeah, there are specializations within the class.
Yeah.
And there are going to be a lot more, I think. Well, I'll talk about that in a second, but talk about
So the one I picked was the College of Black Ash, which is the one that turns you into Nightcrawler and just lets you teleport around the battlefield, because I was like, that sounds tight as hell. I want to do that. I was like, and the thing is, like, when I play games, I'll usually be like, I'll be kind of like tactically minded. I'll be like, okay, do we have a frontline fighter yet? I'll build one. Do we have a healer? Maybe I'll do that. In this case, I was like, oh, a new game system where we're potentially just testing it out. I'll play the edgiest rogue boy I can come up with the saddest backstory I can concoct, and it went great. It was so fun. Like, I think if I was prepping for like 5 seasons in a movie of like a big podcast version, I might have put more thought into him and thus felt a little bit more restricted by not knowing as much about the options in the lore. But for what it was, I had a great time with him. I thought it was really fun. And honestly, I think maybe I just like teleporting. Maybe it's just because it let me teleport. But
That's
also like
all you need to make Red happen.
Turns out the Drawsteel fantasy is also to become Nightcrawler.
it's all Nightcrawler, man. It's like Carsonization. But also like the other rogue in the party, her moveset was completely different. Although I'm struggling to remember specifics now, mostly because in that final fight I was just very stressed about us dying.
Enemy. She could disguise herself.
Right. It was like illusions
It was
and
the
potions
Harlequin
and stuff.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she was
for
the
me,
College of the Harlequin mask.
so for me, it was very like, edgy, hooded rogue guy. And for her, it was like illusions and misdirection. And putting those both under the loose rogue shadow umbrella works. But it does mean that, like, if you're going for a different vibes, there's a wide disparity of vibes just in the built-in, like, sub-schools they already have. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think,
fairness-
first off, they're... Oh, yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, and in fairness, like we were talking about it, I was like, that sounds like D&D, like
Yeah.
it has classes and subclasses and stuff like that. And it made me, this is kind of going off course now, and it made me think, like, when did we start adopting the mindset of, like, you want to be Batman in D&D? You can be Batman in D&D. Like, when did that start? Was it just, like, there ended up becoming such a variety of subclasses and classes that people assumed that there was so much variety that people assumed that you could create the archetype in D&D, or just familiarity with the game caused people to be able to customize a lot more? Like, I don't know. When did this mind shift happen?
For my coldest take, I think I'm going to blame Driz Doerden for that one, where people were like, oh, well,
sure.
that guy's cool. I want to play that guy. And as soon as that gets into your head, it never leaves.
I see.
Yeah.
There definitely is that tendency, and I think the specificity here, because things do start vague in D&D, so you're like, oh, well, I can sneak and punch good. Like, that's the kind of, that's a little Batman-y. I think that the specificity here maybe dissuades you from wanting to play Wolverine or Goku, right? Like, that's,
the two genders.
That is the other thing. That is the other thing. In Drawsteel, I selected my tactical doctrine. You selected your college, I think.
Yeah.
From level 1, whereas you adopt a subclass in later levels in D&D. So
I think that.
But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the backstory of you're a hero. You've done this already. You've not saved the world, but you've probably saved some people.
I feel like treating the specificity of the starting arrangement you get as like a prompt, like an improv prompt, is a good way to sort of build out the character in your head. I do think you would potentially run into difficulties if like more than one player at the table wanted to play like the same sub-college of the same class. But also like that would also happen in D&D, I think. Like you wouldn't really get a party with 2 rangers so much. Maybe if with some with multi-classing, but like...
I think people would argue the opposite, and I get it. I mean, we had 2 rogues, and I don't think there was too much overlap,
No.
other than you could chain your turns together, which was crazy.
Yeah,
I
3
think
turns
something
in a
that goes
row.
a long way to helping that, though, is kits, because your loadout, your gear, right? This is not like D&D. Well, D&D kind of doesn't ask you to track it. It gives you mirrors and 10-foot poles and shit like that, but it doesn't really expect you to use them. And if you do, it doesn't expect you to use them after 3rd level.
No.
This game just skips all of that, and it also doesn't ask you to count daggers and scimitars and are you wearing leather or studded leather. It gives you loadouts that you can select of gear, and then you choose the specifics. So you can be the Shining Knight. That's classic. You're wearing heavy armor and a shield and a one-handed weapon. Are you wielding a mace or a longsword? They don't care. There's not a meaningful difference. The same way in D&D, there's just the best weapon for the damage dice, right? If you're wielding a 2-handed thing and you're using a club instead of a greatsword, you're only playing suboptimally. That's not something that can happen here. You choose your loadout, and it gives you benefits based on the loadout. So the Shining Knight, as you can imagine, does not deal a lot of damage with their regular attack because it's a one-handed weapon. They deal medium damage, but they get a shit ton of hit points because that's how we imagine stamina, your ability to stay in the game, is your armor part. Your armor is part of that. Other classes get bonuses to speed because they're not wearing armor or they're lightly armored. or they get bonuses to range because you're the whirlwind and you're wielding a whip, Trevor Belmont style.
Yeah,
right?
one of the pre-loadouts is Trevor Belmont.
One of the pre-loadouts is Trevor Belmont. And it's awesome. I'm super jealous. I've wanted to play. I wanted to play that one. I have about 16 characters I'd love to play in this game, but a tactician with the whirlwind was totally one of them. And so you can really flavor. It's almost because there is no multi-classing in this game. It's almost akin to multi-classing. You can be the whirlwind if you're a fury, and be this like horrible chain wielding nightmare force of nature, or you could be the tactician who's very like precise with it, and the abilities you get based on your class will dictate how those things come to play.
Yeah, I just did the cloak and dagger kit, which is exactly what you think it's going to be. It's light armor, 2 daggers, slight boost to stamina, big boost to speed, and basically a free disengage action. So that didn't come free with my teleporting around shit. I got that from the pants I put on this morning. And I just think that's a fun way to do it. It kind of, there's a modularity to it that makes it feel oddly customizable. Because like in, again, in D&D, you don't really get to choose what weapons you have proficiency in once you've locked in your class. Because it comes with like, this is the weapon you get, and you're not allowed to use these ones. Whereas in this one, it's like, do you want to be a tiny little rogue with a 10-foot chain whip? You can do that, baby. It's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom there. And the ability to change out, which will get us into the rest mechanics. So to circle all the way back to saying combats get more dramatic as you go on. Combats get more dramatic, but adventures also get more dramatic, because every time you win a fight or a montage test or a negotiation, every time you succeed at one of these, you get what's called a victory. And I think that they kind of assume, it depends on your level, but they kind of assume that on an adventure you're going to get anywhere from like 4 to 8 victories. And the victories increase your ability resource at the start of an encounter. So we said every class has their own resource that they charge. Instead of having spell slots that go down, they get more of this resource, and they can spend it on 1 cost, on 3 cost, on 5 cost abilities, all the way up to there's like 11 cost abilities later in the game, I think.
Ooh.
That we don't have access to, obviously.
Yeah.
You can spend them on these abilities. You start the encounter, each subsequent encounter, before with that extra resources. So if you have 5 victories, you start your next encounter with 5 at the start instead of none and then 2 at the start of your turn. As a result, the adventure gets more dramatic. So even though your health, your stamina is down, even though your recoveries are down, when you go to fight the boss, you start with peak awesomeness that you can do, because you are getting 6 resources at the beginning of your game. You can immediately start with a 5 resource move that's going to define the shape of the battle.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. And then the way you get them back is you take respites, which is at least a day. What's something I really like about this is that sleep is not the way that you recover, because I find that on adventures, a lot of times heroes and players will be like, well, let's just sleep. We're good. We don't need to rush through this. Let's sleep, and then we will. I realized that we didn't tell Sophia what we're doing, so she's like, why are you guys all in the thing? She's gonna be annoyed because she doesn't know she doesn't have to edit this.
Quiet on the set.
You instead of having this like thing that really grinds adventures to a halt because you lose all your momentum and now you have all your resources back, the recovery is based on the narrative of the story. So while you're on the adventure, you could stop the adventure, but you have to go spend a day somewhere safe. You can't be out in the woods to recover all your shit. You have to go back, which means you have to consciously make the choice of, okay, I know we're harrying this evil dude, but it's more important for us to go back and rest now rather than press on and defeat him in his evil, this necromancer in the tower. Or you can say, guys, our health is so low, but we're at 8 victories.
Yeah.
Victories.
Let's get him. We're never gonna be at 8 victories.
Kick his ass.
Let's get his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's drama there, and I really, really love that. And I feel like that's something I almost feel like implementing in D&D 2 is like, you can sleep, but a long rest is you are done with the adventure, so that you can narratively have those campfire scenes without totally undercutting the tension of the adventure.
Cinematically, I love that you don't really get a long rest until you take a nice filler episode to unwind. It's like, you can't recover until you go to the beach, motherfucker.
And it's a time to pursue goals, and we haven't actually had a chance to do that yet because of the way that the adventure's been going. But, you know, we're going to play again, and it probably won't be the first time, but if we continue to play, your downtime lets you pursue goals. And so it encourages you, I think, to be an active player, because when we're in the adventure, I say, hey guys, Ajax is bombing the city, you have to escape. And you guys go, all right, yep, that's the material, and you show up every week, and I go, okay, now you have to get away from these demons that are coming out of this portal, and you go, okay, cool, thank you. But then I get to come into a session that, you know, when everyone's taking the respite and go, okay, what are you doing? And the players have to think, what matters to me? Am I going to research how to make, you know, a potion of strength? Am I going to, like, carouse in town and, like, get the villagers to like me? Am I going to, am I going to, like, try to like forge a sword? You know, I'm a blacksmith. Am I going to try to, like, forge a sword or something like that? You have all these activities you can do, and it puts the ball in the player's court. The adventure, it's kind of in the director's court. For the downtime, it's in the player's court, and there's not really much, you know, we roleplay downtime all the time in D&D.
Yeah.
But there's no consequences to it, right?
Yeah.
There's kind of like this mini game where you can, like, gamble or sell your magic items, but there is not narrative and consequences, and there is in this game. There's rules for what are you going to do with your time off.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to do it. I'll be excited to see how that plays out, because it does kind of feel like a lot of D&D downtime is sort of like there to pretend that it's not just a sequence of combat encounters, because that's really the only part of D&D that has rules, and everything else is just kind of like collective improv, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with collective improv. It's just like, you know. I mean,
if you like it, you know, the subtext of this whole thing is if you like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, if you like those things about the game, no shade to you. You shouldn't feel like you have to play something else because someone else says that it improves on something from your game. But to me, it is exciting, and I like learning when, you know, there's someone who's improved. Last thing, drama of the game. Maybe the last thing, drama of the game. Red, you talked about
complications.
A little bit about your complication.
Yeah.
So what is your complication? Explain what a complication is.
Yeah, so the complications are an optional thing that you can add to your character. At the time that we were building our characters, it was a table of 10 options. And initially I was like, these all seem like they're more trouble than they're worth. And then one of the other players was like, can I pick this one? And you were like, sure. I was like, oh, can we just pick one? Then I want to pick this one. So that's not technically how you're supposed to do it, because it is supposed to be like sort of an element of spice and randomness. But I did kind of want to keep up the thematic consistency. So my complication that I chose of the list of 10 was Cult Victim, and it gave me the ability to, once per turn, move through a solid mundane object no more than 1 square thick. Because I got kitty prided by like an evil necromancer cult, and they messed it up, and now I can walk through walls sometimes. And I just thought, this is going to make my character the most absolutely broken combo of mobility attributes that I can possibly think of. And it's really funny, because it did save my ass at one point in the final fight where I was like, hey, when they're throwing this attack at me, can I just drop through the roof of the building I'm in and then be inside the building? And you were like, I don't see a reason why you can't do that. And then I was just like out of danger for the rest of the round. It was great.
Yeah. It's this dial you get to control. I don't know that its rules is written that you have to roll. By the way, it's now a D100.
Yay! I knew they were going to put more things in there.
Can I roll a new complication?
What's your complication?
Now that we have more options.
Because
I rolled my complication. I like to leave my, as evidenced by Oobtegler trying to gamble their way out of Maramoth's hand. I like to leave my
my fate to chance
in the hands of the dice.
Yeesh.
And by the way, rules is written, you can choose your complication or roll.
Oh, good. Never mind.
There is a bunch of. Let's do a couple of them. Red and Noir, both roll me a D100.
Oh God, I didn't bring my dice. All right.
You can do it online. Just
I'm
roll
on it.
D100
Yeah.
And Google will do it for you.
25.
50.
All right, 25. All right. Oop, that'll be easy to remember. Okay. 25 is called Fallen Immortal.
What?
So, by the way, these things the important thing to remember is that they all have benefits and drawbacks. So Red talked about the being able to face the walls, but also the corruption vulnerability.
Which,
right?
When you take corruption damage, take 5 more. You were dealing like
every time you take
2
damage,
corruption
take extra
damage.
5.
It was ridiculous. Everyone else was like, oh, that stung. And I was like, I'm unconscious.
It ruled. But there's different levels. But what's important to remember is that all the drawbacks and the benefits are balanced, hopefully, to be equal. So, imagine if one thing gives you +5, your drawback gives you -5. Some are only +1, and then the drawback is only -1. So they're all balanced on the seesaw. So this is obviously a big one. Fallen Immortal. You used to be an immortal creature, doing the bidding of gods. Now, as a punishment, or perhaps a reward, you've put aside your wings and become mortal. Your remaining years will be short, but living aside the fellow mortals gives your life new meaning. Benefit: you gain the religion skill. Additionally, when you deal untyped damage, so that is weapon damage, you can deal holy damage instead.
I can just choose deal holy damage.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's typed. Yep, that's typed, so that's obviously useful, and a lot of monsters don't like holy damage. Drawback: you will never fully gain a mortal's comfort with untruth. When you make a test to deceive another, you do so with a bane. So you have a basically a disadvantage to lie.
Yeah.
That's
very cool.
That's fun. My brain initially went to like...
That one actually wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I initially went to like Last Unicorn, but this is a very different angle on that.
And 50 is loner. So, another edgy one.
All right.
You've always been a lone wolf. With no one else to lean on, you've picked up a million survival tricks, which made it all the more surprising when you joined your current party and found the family you never had. Benefit: when you complete a respite, choose a skill you don't possess. By the way, there's a shit ton of skills in this game.
There's so
way
many.
More than D&D.
Yeah.
You gain the benefits of that skill until you complete another respite, so you get to kind of, pick up something extra.
You just wake up and you're like, I'm good at handling animals now.
Now that you can finally have people who care about you, you won't let anyone take them away. When a creature reduces one of your allies to 0 stamina, you are taunted by that creature until your ally's turn. Until your ally's stamina is higher than 0, the end of the encounter, or another creature makes you taunted. So you have to focus down. If someone knocks your friend unconscious, you have to focus them down.
That's fun.
For the rest of the combat.
If you are taunted, you have a double bane on ability power rolls that don't target the creature who taunted you, while you have line of effect to that creature.
That's good. Again, that's rules enforced role playing. I like that a lot. Where it's less like the characters being like, oh, what am I gonna do in this situation? It's like, I'm gonna try and rip that guy's head off of his body. Any objections? I still think Cult Victim is cooler though, but whatever.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
This one is called, well, I'll do one more just because it looks awesome. Lost in Time.
Ooh.
In a long ago age, a cataclysm overtook your city. You weren't killed, but through some arcane accident, you were suspended in time until now. Alone, you must navigate the modern world with a head full of outdated memories. Choose a damage type, and then there's a shit ton of them. When you use a signature ability, you can use your chosen damage type instead of the normal damage. Drawback: you automatically fail any tests made to recall information from after you were suspended in time. So you get to change the damage type.
I want to choose that one, actually.
Captain America ass.
Rocks as a time raider.
You're just like, I don't... Well, there's a great in Critical Role. They find a guy who's been stuck in a magic jar, which is like one of the spells that lets you become a lich. His soul's been stuck in a magic jar, and he's like, they're like, how long have you been in there? He's like, I don't know. Time is impossible to tell. They're like, okay, well, it's 1500 DR. He goes, okay, well, I don't know what DR is.
Bad sign. Bad sign.
So, or PD, I think, post-diverge. He's like, I don't know what PD is, so...
Who's still the Pope? Oh, no. Oh, boy.
What's a Pope?
Yeah, no, that's what's so fun about this is that, like... Because that's a huge thing. Like, that completely changes the trajectory of a character. Like, oh, I have this whole thing built out, and by the way, you used to be an angel, and now you're not anymore. What? Okay. Like, that kind of changes the concept from the ground up. But I like that. It's kind of like you're discovering who the character is as you do character creation rather than building it to fit.
That's why you get to roll or choose, or take none. You can choose to take none, and then, it still evens out to 0. You have no benefit, but no drawback.
Yeah.
One of these is called Host Body, where you get to play an intelligent fungus, inside of
you would think that's cool, wouldn't you? Mr. Zgutmoy is my secret
God.
final boss in every campaign.
There's also, one of them is called Infernal Contract, and then the one after is called Infernal Contract, but, like, bad.
Oh no, because like I do remember there were other backstory elements that we got to pick that didn't really come up as much, but like mine was sole survivor, which was just like I had a squad, they're dead now, and then I was like, oh, cult victim, maybe I can combine pleasures, and it just like turned into a whole backstory. But that's the thing, they're like ingredients, and you combine them together, and you're like, I think this is what happened. But it's very loosey goosey, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yes, indeed, and there's a lot more stuff that I'm sure we didn't talk about.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot more stuff we haven't played yet. I didn't really end up talking about it much from the GM perspective. There was a lot for me to juggle. I'll be honest. This was now it is a new game, so that's something, right? But I did feel a lot to juggle. I know that was a thing they've addressed since then. A thing I do like about being a GM is that, again, the monsters act as squads, so I don't feel like any of my people are getting picked off one by one, or don't have a chance to go. That's part of the initiative as well. But they also have group abilities, so the same way you charge resources, the director charges resource. Was called villain power. I think it's called malice now.
Ooh.
But I get to spend them, and if you're rolling demons have things you can spend the malice on that are demon-like. So, you know, we kind of talk about like, oh, well, what makes a goblin a goblin? Well, in their D&D stat block, they've got a short bow and they've got cunning action, and that's kind of, there's not too much. The way you play them is the only thing that makes them a goblin different than, you know, and like they have less hit points than an orc, you know? But in this game, all demons have mutate, and you can spend malice to mutate them and make them bigger, badder demons. That's a thing demons do. And then it's the same for goblins. Have a goblin thing they can do, and kobolds and dwarves, which are their own monster and stuff like that. They give you, they're like, you want to fight anything? We got monsters stat-wise for it.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of each one.
Also,
just reading through all of these complications, it's so fun.
We could have done a whole episode just on this.
Oh yeah, the complication your brother picked for his character was we mentioned it a little bit. It was part of what made the final battle so complicated. Because like all the rest of us, like if we hit 0 and didn't have recoveries left, it's like, okay, well that's not good. Like we're trying to escape the on fire city. You know, somebody might need to carry me. And he was like, if I go below 0, I become an uncontrollable rage monster and I don't stop fighting until I'm dead. And we were like, what? Why does that happen? And he was like, it's a complication I picked for extra stamina. And it's like, but what happens now? He's like, I'm out of recoveries.
He's way more physically hardy.
Yeah.
He's way more physically hardy because he has an elemental bound inside of him. But then when he starts to die, it takes over like Venom symbiote style and starts to just wreck shop.
But part of the problem we ran into was we were sort of like, we were subject to the mechanics not seemingly being fully fleshed out there, because we were like, does that mean you die in like 3 rounds because you keep taking damage because you keep taking actions after you hit 0? Like, when do you stop? And he's like, there's no rules for when I stop. It just says that I keep going. And it's like, so if you hit 0, you will just make yourself die and there's nothing we can do? It's like, well, how about we just don't let him hit 0? And so we don't have to find out. We had managed to get 3 healing potions, which are free recoveries that you don't need to spend a recovery to get, and all of them went into him just to keep him up.
Yep, everyone just kept using actions to keep him up because they were like, he's incredibly useful. Not only is he the healer, he was also the toughest, and he had a pretty devastating attack because of the kit he chose.
Yeah.
He was, I think, the Mountain, which is the, like... I'm trying to think of the right, like, fictional character to describe this as. It's your armor is fine, but you have a big-ass weapon.
The guts from Berserk.
It's the bruise, like, I have this big, slow weapon, so it's going to be hard to hit you, but when I do, you're absolutely fucked, you know? So that was his, so, you know, he was very, very useful in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
At one point, he burst through, I think, Noir, was it you who gave him movement, or was it our friend Kyle, who was playing a mage, who teleported him? He burst up through a ceiling. There were monsters shooting arrows down at you from down the street.
Yeah.
And he gave him movement, and he burst up through the roof because there's all these movement options and rules for breaking through walls and shit like that. He burst up through the roof and like just started knocking them all through.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
This is a little side note. I don't want to spend too long on it, but one of the things that I thought was really fun is the first leg of the adventure when we were escaping the on fire tavern. hotel, wherever we were.
Yeah, it was an inn.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
inn.
was a
That was the
3-story
word
inn.
I was looking for. First of all, I liked that we ended every fight by falling through the floor into the next battle arena. I thought that was very festive.
That was awesome.
But also, like, every floor just had a bunch of, like, innocent people around that we could spend our turns going and rescuing. And I just had a really...
Secondary objective.
Yeah, but I had a really fun time doing that because, again, my character had all this mobility, but didn't necessarily do a ton of damage. And also, like, it was all demons, so anytime any of them hit me, it was like half my health bar. So I was just like, I'll go rescue this lady on the balcony. I'll go rescue this guy. And, like, it was just a lot of, like, fun little movement puzzles of, like, okay, how much of my movement do I need to, like, get over this room where the entire floor has fallen in? Like, can I, like, if I make this jump... And we had a fun one where, like, I failed to make the jump and I started falling, and then, like, that was the end of my turn. And then at the beginning of my next turn, I teleported because that was when it recharged. I was like,
Yes.
okay, we're good. But it was just, it was a fun little secondary objective. I don't know if it did any mechanical benefits for us in later fights.
It did, because you got an extra victory. So having
Right.
you don't have to have alternate goals, but they give rules for how to have alternate goals in a combat, and then if you achieve those, you get extra victories, which means even though you fought... Now, this is part of the adventure I don't think was fully tested, and how could it be? They were still testing the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How could you test an adventure? So I think that the first combat is too long and... It's awesome.
Yes.
It's awesome. On its own, it rules. It's too long and punishing as part of an adventure. But that was very cool that you finished it and you had 2 victories instead of 1. So your next combat started, you had extra resources that you could use.
Yeah.
So that was the benefit to saving all those people.
Yeah.
And, it gives you, in D&D, there's character reason to care about saving a bunch of innocents, but there's not necessarily, like, mechanic reasons. Here there was some.
And that's part of what made it so cinematic is, again, the rules were, like, passively encouraging the players to take heroic actions. And I think that's part of what was so impressive to me about the game system is, like, the rules were just... The natural course for you to do to achieve victory involved your character doing a bunch of really cool heroic shit that would look good on camera, and that's not always the case. A lot of times, like in D&D, you sort of sometimes have to fight the mechanics to make the cool thing happen, and often the dice will punish you for trying, and that just did not happen here. It's like, it was never like, I want to do like a cool spin move and a flourish and then teleport behind him and sneak attack. It's like, okay, roll. Well, I rolled badly. Okay, you trip on your cape and you fall and you look stupid and everyone thinks you're dumb. None of that in this game. You just do the cool thing.
Yeah. I think that's a great final thought. Noir, do you have a final thought to say?
Yeah. I just like how much personality the descriptions of the game has.
Yeah.
Like from like the names of the actions. Like I don't think this is I think this was phased out, but one of my triggered action before the rule change was called "Flank them now!" exclamation point.
Yeah.
But I think that's been phased out. But I have others now that I could choose called like "Now!" flank exclamation point, or
Get 'em,
"This is what we
boys!"
planned for," or something like that. There's
Just
just
as
so much
planned.
personality in the descriptiveness of it. There's the other thing. You mentioned the host body complication, and I just want to read the description of that because
Yes.
it's very funny. Do not be alarmed. We are not the humanoid we appear to be. We are an intelligent fungal collective using this body as a host. No, we are doing nothing unsavory. This body was dead when we found it. We merely gave it another chance at life. We are friendly. Please put down those torches. Like that's the description for it. And it's great.
That is such a character
It's
you
full
would
of
play.
character.
Yes.
And I would... It's full of character. Like, yeah, this ability is called... You can sleep when you're dead. You inspire your allies to recover and gather their strength. Or, you've still got something left. You push an ally to use a heroic ability sooner than they normally would.
Like, all of the
And even
rogue
down to-
abilities are like distracting pain, blade dance, get in, get out, in all this confusion, and of course, hesitation is weakness.
Hesitation is weakness rules.
It rules. It's just so funny because like there's so much personality in here, but it's exactly the personality you expect from this like edgy rogue type.
Yeah, that's my final thought.
Yeah, it's fun.
Personality in the words of the rules.
Exquisite vibes.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited to play more, and once we're done with the current season, we're going to play a couple more sessions. We're going to play a little adventure again, so maybe you'll hear more about it then. But in the meantime, thanks for joining and listening, and hey, I hope I've inspired you to, or we've inspired you to at least, to think about the game and maybe even consider giving it a shot in the future.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this talkback from Rolling with Difficulty. This originally aired on our Patreon page, where you can find even more talkbacks about even more of the systems we've tried out over the years. We're gearing up to play Draw Steel in an upcoming one-shot adventure, but in the meantime, check us out on socials, YouTube, Discord, and of course, Patreon. Thanks for listening.